What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Kostiw, and today, guys, we have a fantastic episode in store for you. We're going to be breaking down everything from both the NFL and MLB off seasons, all the free agency trades, all the craziness going on there, as well as, well, the giant elephant in the room, Tom Brady returning to football for his 23rd season. That's obviously going to be some big news. Additionally, today we are also going to be talking about Baker Mayfield requesting a trade from the Cleveland Browns. We got a great episode in store for you today, so I figured that we bring back on a guest that can, do it justice and help me out along the way. So you've seen him on this show many times before. I'm glad to have him back on. So back at us again from Bridgewater State University, Mr. Sean Howe. Sean, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great today. How are you doing?
Doing good, man. I know that's totally not original for you, so I'm glad you were a trooper with that.
I think you've used it every time I've come on at this point, so I'm getting used to it.
It probably isn't anything of me actually. That's probably the first time I've actually purposely, made that as a poignant thing. The other times I've probably just genuinely asked you how you doing, like actually like that, and I probably haven't made I mean, you could go back and look it over, but more of the times it's probably me just like being an idiot and not making the connection. This time I actually kind of made a little mental note of it going into this. But obviously, man, I'm glad to have you on the show today. Glad to be able to discuss some stuff with you today. And yeah, I mean, obviously the NFL offseason has, seemingly when it comes to any other sport, any other sport can have their kind of big moment. Like when the MLB ended their lockout, that's a big moment for that sport. But the NFL, no matter what time of the year it is, can come in and just have one storyline that just sweeps the entire sports world off their feet and completely dominates the world. And obviously, we saw that this past weekend as Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback to ever play football. I know that there are some reservations by you, Sean, but listen, man, Dan Marino, no Super Bowls won. Tom Brady, 7. So let's just be frank with that.
I wasn't going to say Dan Marino, just the argument as a whole.
Okay, but let's just say Tom Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion, the GOAT, announced on Twitter that he will be returning to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for his 23rd NFL season. He wrote, these past 2 months, I've realized my place is still on the field and not in the stands. That time will come, but it's not now. I love my teammates and I love my supportive family. They make it all possible. I'm coming back for my 23rd season in Tampa. Unfinished business. Let's freaking go. Obviously, some little, maybe some more expletives on the freaking there, but obviously really, really exciting news to see that Tom Brady is returning to the NFL for more, to possibly break even more history. So it's a very interesting thing. Sean, I'm very sorry that your team will not be the most relevant team in Florida. So that's a very unfortunate loss, I know, for you, but craziness going down in Tampa right now. Obviously, Tom Brady is back for more. What are your initial thoughts on all of this?
So when the news first broke that he was retiring way back originally, I was kind of like, all right, I'm skeptical because let's remember what happened when the whole New England rumor was going on. He's like, oh, I'm coming back. He had that commercial. He's like, oh, I'm coming back. And he never came back. He went to Tampa. So I was kind of skeptical when he originally retired. I'm like, what was actually going to happen? I knew a lot of people on social media were making jokes like, oh, he's going to be back. Like, don't worry. So for me, it's like, it's not really a shock. It's a disappointment as a Dolphins fan. I was very excited to finally.
You were gonna be the most relevant team in your state.
I was excited for that part, but I mean, so a little disappointed, but I'm not shocked. Kind of saw it coming. Again, I expect things like this from Tom Brady. He's pulled things like this in the past. People were speculating it from the day he, again, quote, retired. So not really too surprised.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, but I'm not. So, I mean, I thought that there was going to be a possibility that we were going to see Tom Brady return. But with the way I was seeing the situation unfold in Tampa, it seemed that his relationship with Bruce Arians really had become kind of torn at a certain point. And it didn't really look like they were going to be able to get back on the same page and go out there and play with each other again. I did not think that was going to be possible. But then again, who knows that with things in the NFL these days, it's all craziness. So, when it first was reported that he was retiring, my thoughts were that, okay, there's at least the good chance that he's going to stay retired for at least a year, because Giselle probably had a big influence on getting him to retire in the first place. She probably has been saying, she has been saying for so long that she wants Brady to take care of his health and finally, spend time with the kids. And that's something that she's been really poignant about. She's, come out publicly about it. And I think Brady finally said, all right, I'll throw my hands up in the air. I'll retire. I'll be a part of these kids' lives and I'll do this. And then he went on a podcast, I think a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about his time in retirement, and he couldn't help but just list the time off that he's had. He said, well, these past 5 weeks I've been off, and, he's counting the days. And I'm like, okay, he's really paying attention to how much time he's had off football. And I was like, okay, there's some talk. There's some, maybe, some rumblings that maybe he could be willing to come back. But I thought it'd be at least another year. Wait out the remaining contract in Tampa. And then once your rights there expire, maybe you look at something else. I know the 49ers were a possible option. So there were some things floating about. And I was like, okay, this could be something on the horizon. Then it came about that, basically the NFL offseason was about to begin, and Brady's contract was going to count against the Bucs cap. At that moment, Brady ended up saying, all right, if I want to come back now, this is my shot. And rather than do what Brett Favre did and come back in the summer where, the cap had already set, his contract would have had to have been, reworked at that point. Brady looked at the Bucs and said, all right, my money is certain there. If I come back, I'm going to get paid that money if I go there. And he said, all right, whatever 20 million or something dollars I'm going to get, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go get that right now. And Brady, and evidently he went there, he got it. And, obviously the sky's kind of the limit now for the Bucs. They've made a couple moves now since they've gotten him back. They got Chris Godwin back on a 3-year deal. They recently acquired Russell Gage in free agency, and they also acquired Shaq Mason from the Patriots. So Brady's getting reunited with a former O lineman down in Tampa. So it seemed like for when the Bucs lost Brady, there was going to be kind of an opening in the NFC, and certain guys like Aaron Rodgers were going to be able to maybe make an opening where Brady was kind of a stopgap in that division for the past 3 years. But evidently Brady's back, and it's absolute madness, man.
I think for me, it raises a couple of questions of when is he actually going to retire? I think it was some odd years ago when he made the statement, I'll stop playing when I'm not good anymore or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
he said I'll play till I suck. Yeah.
So, is he truly going to play till he sucks? I mean, he retired and now he's back. How long is he back for? Is he going to keep playing? Is he going to retire again and then come back again? I guess the question that I always ask is what is the foreseeable future? Nobody ever knows with Tom Brady because Tom Brady changes his mind like we just saw in a matter of 5-6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So for all we know, he's got one more season in Tampa, then he goes somewhere else. For all we know, he's got one more season in Tampa, then he retires officially, fully. For all we know, he's got 5 more years on 3 different teams and goes on to win 5 more Super Bowls.
Yeah,
nobody knows at this point. It's Tom Brady.
No, Sean, it really is up in the air at this point, and I have no idea what it's going to look like. There was a whole thing where I believe Brady met up with I think it was Cristiano Ronaldo, and he took a picture with him at a soccer match. And I think it was Ronaldo, and he went up to him and he basically said to Brady, "Oh, are you done?" And then people were kind of like trying to read Brady's lips. And one interpretation I saw was that Brady said one more, meaning, I don't know if that means one more championship, one more season, but a lot of people were saying that Brady was saying one more. So in my best judgment, Brady had his mind set on going out there going back out after his 7th Super Bowl win, repeating, and then evidently retiring at the age that he said he was probably going to leave football at. That didn't happen. The Rams spoiled it on the last play of the game for him after he came back down 27-3, kind of living, playing some of his best hits, trying to relive the Super Bowl 51 days. So, evidently that didn't happen. And I think for Brady, he ended up saying, all right, if we get those guys back in Tampa, which he thinks that they can, and they're all healthy, which he thinks is possible, because obviously Chris Godwin went down with the torn ACL at the end of the year. Antonio Brown turned into a psychopath and just stormed out of MetLife Stadium. So in Brady's mind, he's probably thinking, all right, if I get these guys all right, and minus AB, and now you get Russell Gage in there too to kind of replace AB's role on that team. In his mind, he thinks, all right, if we're all healthy, which we were during my Super Bowl run, why can't we repeat that?
Well, of course. Who wants to go out as a Super Bowl champion? Who wants to go out losing the Super Bowl or even make the Super Bowl, losing the championship game?
It wasn't even a championship game. It was a divisional round game.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
They lost. That's
it
right.
was
Because they were down and they almost came back.
Mhm.
But I think the thing is like if you're him, if you win this year, you call it quits. But
Yeah,
the question mark is what happens if you lose? Because as we know, Brady is a very, 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 very sore loser. He does not like to lose.
no,
He doesn't show pleasure when he loses. He's been known for walking away, not shaking hands to quarterbacks he loses to. If he loses, hypothetically, is he going to throw it in or is it going to be another one more? Like, is it going to be one more till he wins or falls off the field? Or is it going to be, it's time I call it quit. Let me walk away.
yeah. I mean, it really does depend. I don't know if he doesn't win this year. I look at Tampa and I see the fact that they locked down Chris Godwin for multiple years, so he's there for I think it was 3 years. I think 60 million if I remember correctly. So he's there for a couple. If with Brady coming back, that kind of means that there's a good chance Gronk is going to be back in Tampa next year because I know there's some speculation about Gronk playing elsewhere, but with Brady back in the league, I don't think there's another place that Rob Gronkowski wants to play football besides with his guy Tom Brady. So I think he would be back. And then I think that you can build something formidable in Tampa, at least, in the 2023 season, the year after this upcoming one. I think you could physically, I think you could feasibly do something like that. After that, though, I feel like it would be within the realm of possibility for Brady to explore other possible options. I know, Sean, for yourself, there were some rumors about Brady possibly going to the Dolphins when he left New England after his free agency. I know that's something that kind of seemed probably pretty enticing to someone like you. When that went down, obviously that kind of fell apart. But I don't know. I don't know if there's a team that could fit him. Maybe the 49ers say after 2 years that Trey Lance isn't the answer and they move on from him. Maybe Brady sees, Pittsburgh as a possible option. I know they just went with Mitch Trubisky, but he kind of just feels like a stopgap guy. I don't know if he's gonna, really be a future quarterback. I love the possibility of what Tomlin can do with him, but who knows? Maybe Brady sees Pittsburgh as an option. Indianapolis is always kind of an interesting one because they just traded Carson Wentz, and now they're trying to figure out a quarterback situation. Will that be the case in 2 years? Who knows? And realistically, too. 2 years down the line, we don't know. Obviously Brady could, regardless of whether he's playing football at a high level, we don't know which teams are going to be a quarterback away come that time. So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things up in the air.
I mean, the thing with Gronkowski, to go back to that, is he only came back because of Brady. We all know that. The only reason he came back to the league was because Brady convinced him, we're going to go get one more together.
I mean, he basically all but admitted it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is wherever Brady goes, if Gronk's still going to play, Gronk's probably going to go with. But
Yeah.
I don't know if I can see Brady sticking around Tampa Bay if he isn't winning. Like, if they don't win this year, I don't know if he's really going to want to stay. Because the thing is, he's old. He only gets so many more opportunities. All it takes is one hit. All it takes is one thing, and his entire career is done. Especially at his age, he's fragile. So, given the time constraint, if they don't do good this year, I could see him foreseeably leaving next year.
Yeah. No, I think
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you could see him leaving too. And I think for a guy like Brady, I mean, Tom Brady's played in New England. He's played in the worst elements of all. He's not afraid to play in those elements. But I think for himself, he's like, all right, I'm in my 40s. I can play in those elements, but if I have my druthers, I'd rather, go play somewhere else. I mean, that's why going to Tampa, playing in the warm weather was, obviously a big draw to him. Had it come down to, I know the Chargers were an option. Say Tampa was, the roster with Tampa was, where Green Bay is located. Maybe Tom Brady doesn't go there. Maybe Tom Brady goes out to LA because he sees the marketing opportunities and he sees the warm weather and he goes for something like that. I think for Brady, if there is the chance for him to go somewhere else, I think it's going to be a similar opportunity to Tampa, somewhere where he can market himself, somewhere where it's warm, and somewhere with a talented roster. Now, could that be maybe Arizona in a couple years next year if they decide against re-signing Kyler Murray and they try to make some moves there? Possibly. It could also possibly be another area of LA. They could maybe not LA rather, but they could also try some other regions. You could again, Indianapolis could make sense because it's not necessarily warm in Indy, but you play in an indoor stadium that you can either open or close the roof depending on the weather. So there's a couple different ideas of where Brady could maybe go after this year if things were to fall apart.
I mean, even with that, I think if the team in the North had the right roster, I don't see why he wouldn't run and take that opportunity. I mean, the man played in Buffalo once a year the entire time he was on the Patriots. Believe me, as a Dolphins fan, I've watched the Dolphins play in Buffalo. It's never pretty. It's not pretty. It's always ugly. So, if he did it once a year in Buffalo. I don't see why he couldn't never handle a team like Green Bay. I get he's old and I get the marketing might be better, but I think at the end of the day, the only reason he's coming back is because he wants the ring, and he's going to go where he's got the best chance to walk away with the ring.
Mm-hmm. What would be an interesting location for Brady next year if he wasn't to win in this upcoming season? And it was originally a location that was speculated on during his first free agency run after leaving the Patriots to go to Tampa.
Nowhere.
I think the Vegas Raiders could definitely be in play.
I didn't think about that. That's actually smart.
You obviously could get him to reunite with Josh McDaniels. Obviously, you got the connection there, and Brady loves him. I mean, you can talk about the frayed relationship with him and Belichick when he came back, but when he came back to New England, the first thing he did when he went on the field was give Josh McDaniels a big old bear hug. And, obviously McDaniels has done a great job of recruiting a bunch of former New England executives down, out to Oakland, out to Las Vegas rather. And, he's also been able to get in some former Patriots as well. I know, the fullback Jakob Johnson recently went there, as well as Chandler Jones. He's now going to be going over there. And, they got a pretty formidable roster building out there. And I think, if McDaniels was able to change the culture, the Raiders could really become, maybe a possible landing target for Tom Brady. Now, if that happens, we got a hell of an AFC West on our hands. That division will be absolutely loaded. You might have all four teams in that division making the playoffs if Tom Brady was to go to the Raiders.
I was about to say that division's going to be stacked, and I don't know if that's something Brady wants to put himself into. Granted, the division he's in right now is pretty stacked, isn't it?
Not fully. No, there's no one in that division. That's like one of the easier divisions in football right now, outside of
Well, no, I meant there was when he first went there because he had Drew Brees.
Yeah, you had Drew Brees at the end though. I know he beat you twice in the regular season, but Drew Brees by the end was kind of falling apart in New Orleans. And then Matt Ryan, obviously very talented quarterback. Their team wasn't going anywhere the year they won the Super Bowl. And then the Panthers, they were trying to figure out with Teddy Bridgewater, and that proved to be a whole disaster.
Yeah, but I guess I mostly was pointing at New Orleans. Like he went down to Tampa fully knowing he had to play Drew Brees in the New Orleans State. So
yeah,
I don't know if he would go throw himself into such a challenge. He's smart. He's smarter up here in knowing why would I bug myself with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it does pose a very interesting question, but I mean. Brady did, go down in that first year. And, the first year he was down there, he was a wild card and had to prove himself through the wild card round and, was able to go win a Super Bowl off of that. So I don't think Brady's afraid of having to play an extra game in order to get what he wants. The only question is, could Josh McDaniels then, in theory, recruit enough guys to where he could get second or third in that division, maybe behind the Chiefs, or even challenge the Chiefs, to where they could get into the playoffs?
If it's the Chiefs that played this year, 100% they could build a team that could challenge those Chiefs. The Chiefs this year did not look anything like the Chiefs last year. And if they continue to look like that, fully can make a run for it.
I think there's a good chance you're going to see the Chiefs kind of trend in that direction. I know people have been saying, oh, Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, that's the new Bill Belichick and Tom Brady duo. I'm just like, yeah, if Bill Belichick and Tom Brady didn't win, I'm like, okay. I mean, you won once. I mean, congratulations. They obviously had an amazing Super Bowl team when they put it together. Absolutely stacked from top to bottom. Congratulations for all of that. It doesn't matter now. You need to actually go out and do it more than once. And I don't know if the Chiefs are built to do that with their financial situation. If say the Chiefs, I don't think they're going to fall off in the time that Patrick Mahomes is there, but say they just aren't able to get enough weapons around him in that, maybe the next 2 to 3 years, if Brady was to go onto the Raiders and then have to not only compete with Pat Mahomes, but Russell Wilson and Justin Herbert, again, incredible. That would be the most fun division in football to watch because you do not know who's coming out of that. You don't know if it's going to be a 50-year-old Tom Brady, Justin Herbert finally figuring it out, Pat Mahomes and KC, or Russell Wilson figuring out in Denver. That would be a very fun division to watch. I'd be very interested to see how that would go. But if Brady was just to do that, it wouldn't even surprise me because this is just kind of what that guy does at this point.
I mean, it would definitely spice it up. And the thing is, it'd be one of those, I've heard the saying before. Normally it's a college thing, it's, any team can win on any given Saturday. But now I look at it and like in this division, any team can win on any given Sunday,
Yeah.
depending on who shows up to play, who doesn't show up to play. 4 great quarterbacks, Wilson coming from, Seattle into Denver. Then you've already got Herbert there. And then I think honestly, like whoever comes out on top, it could be nothing because whoever they're going to face, whoever gets that wild card spot out of that division could come right in that game. It's going to be head to head, 2 good teams. It won't matter.
I mean, again, under the theoretical, under the idea that Brady would go to Las Vegas, you could make the case that division would basically almost like whoever won that division, you could almost crown them the Super Bowl champion at that point, though. Like just knowing how stacked that division is, and if you can make it out of that and make it out of there soundly, I don't know if there's I don't know if there's any other team in the NFC that could beat you at that point, because that would just prove that you're absolutely stacked from top to bottom.
No, I mean the only team I can think that would give them a run on the way to the Super Bowl is Buffalo. If Buffalo stays playing good, that's the only team outside of that I could really see giving them a run. I mean currently, but again, we don't know what Pittsburgh's going to look like if after Tomlin gets to work with Trubisky a little bit. We don't know what the Dolphins are going to look like. Not to be biased, but we don't know what. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but we don't know what the Jets are going to look like then. So at that point, there could be 1 or 2 teams maybe that could pop up and give them a fight. But even then, you're still a powerful team if you win that division because that's stacked.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, Sean, these are obviously speculations that we're making, a year, 2 years, even in advance. We don't know what it's really going to look like so far. A quarterback situation that could be developing rather soon, though, is actually happening in Cleveland right now. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, and it is the fact that Baker Mayfield could be on the move. He has just gone in and requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, got drafted there first overall, and kind of was able to revitalize that franchise that really didn't have a solid quarterback for years. I mean, Baker Mayfield was finally the first kind of solid guy that they were able to bring in there in so long. And, he obviously kind of became disgruntled with the organization this offseason. It kind of started during the beginning of the season, was kind of getting beat to all hell. I mean, it was kind of just like putting a corpse out in the field just because of how injured he was. And then, obviously this offseason, the Browns were rumored to be engaged in trade talks for Deshaun Watson after his situation in Texas cleared up. And, now he's now there's some other situations going on there. The Browns have seemingly since pulled out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but now even with that, they've said, oh, we're out of the Deshaun sweepstakes. This is gonna be Baker's team, but Baker's saying, yeah, no, I don't want to do this. So he's gone on and requested a trade, and obviously there's a lot of things going on there. What are your thoughts?
I think it's an interesting situation. What I can't really wrap my head around is how the Browns are pretty much saying like, oh, you want to leave? Like, that's funny. You're not leaving.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you force a guy to stay? You know?
Well, I mean, obviously you can force a guy to stay, but that's the other part. That's the other part of the thing too. It's that the Browns aren't going to honor Baker's request. And I'm like, you were just shopping for another guy. And the fact that he's saying, all right, I want to get out of here. And they're saying, no, you're our guy. And he's like, but 5 seconds ago, I wasn't. So I actually can kind of see the writing on the wall. If I'm going to leave, I'd like to leave on my own terms. And they're saying, no, we don't want to do that. And typically I kind of side with the team, but in this situation, I can't help but side with Baker in this. Cause I mean, he's literally just sitting there and saying, hey, I love this team. I love the city. And, he's obviously been very, he's obviously defended Cleveland kind of, basically tooth and nail, and has said, all right, if you're either on this bus or you're off of it. And then, obviously he's now kind of getting off of it himself. He's very, outspoken against the team right now. He released a very lengthy statement in which he said that he didn't know what his situation was going to be. And even with Cleveland saying, oh, you're going to be our guy, he can't help but feel like he's lost that trust at this point. And for him, it probably is a healthier situation for him to get out of Cleveland.
I mean, if I'm him, I'm looking at it this way. It's like he's a safety option. That's what he was. He was a safety net for the Browns. Granted, they got no quarterback. They didn't get what they want. That's not what he wants to be. He wants to be the guy that they want. He wants to be the head. He wants to be in charge. He doesn't want this nonsense of, oh, I'm only the quarterback because you couldn't find somebody better. He wants his front office to be behind him, and he doesn't feel like that's the way right now. And the Browns obviously aren't letting him out. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's obviously not behind him at all. I mean, they have, again, they've clearly come out and said that, here's the thing. You can at least secretly kind of shop for a guy, kind of remain low key. But when you make yourself known, all right, we're shopping for a guy, that kind of signals to the other guy, all right, my time here is done. There is nothing else I can do at this point. They don't believe in me anymore. So I'm going to go try to prove my worth elsewhere. When it then comes out though, that, oh, we couldn't get anyone, so we're going to try to rebuild that relationship with you, I'd be like, screw you, dude. You just tried to get rid of me and replace me 2 seconds ago. And now the fact that you're saying that me wanting to leave is you're trying to make me the bad guy. I'm like, no. So the only thing I can say to Cleveland is, unless you have a guy that you can bring in right now that is significantly better than Baker Mayfield. And listen, I believe Deshaun Watson is significantly better than Baker Mayfield. But unless you can find a guy, since obviously now that you're out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, unless you can find a guy that is better than Baker Mayfield, the Browns are on the precipice of going back to that, pit of despair they were in for decades. So, I mean, listen, Cleveland fans, unless you got something, kind of, under your hands, figure something out.
I just think it's not right. They're backpedaling. They fully went 100 miles an hour backwards. So, no, you're our guy. You're our guy. You're our guy. Like you were saying, I tell them it's true too. Why?
It is a 100% panic move by the Browns. They have no idea what to do now.
Yeah. And if I'm Baker, why would I want to be in a place where I don't feel welcome? I wouldn't feel welcome if my head coach here came to me and was like, oh, we're going to go get another, whatever to play your position. And then, out of nowhere, it's like, actually, we really need you. Am I going to be like, really?
Well, no, it's not actually even saying, actually, we really need you. Because that could be, someone coming to their senses and saying, you know what, we didn't see your worth before. We see it now, and we respect that. What happened with the Browns is that they went to go try to make a trade for Deshaun Watson. The Texans asked for too much, and now they're trying to mend the fences, kind of afterwards. So that's a different situation. If they had gone to explore trade, and then we're like, you know what, Baker's actually done a lot for us. We think that we could maybe put an offense around him that could win. We're going to take ourselves out of this conversation. That's something else. But they obviously left it. They obviously left these trade discussions because they couldn't match what Houston was asking for. At that point,
so you're saying it's more of a fall through. Like it's more because the trade failed. They're going back, not really because they had this aha moment.
Oh, I mean, it's 100% a fall through. I mean, the fact that they're not even willing to honor his trade request at this point kind of proves that it's a fall through because now they're panicking. They don't have another option outside of Baker Mayfield at this point, and they're going, well, shoot, like we lost our opportunity with Deshaun, and now Baker found out about it and is pissed. Like, what do we do here? So they're kind of just fumbling everything around right now, and they have no idea what they're trying to do. The Browns are screwed right now.
No, yeah. I mean, I was just making sure that we were like fully on the same page,
absolutely. Here's the thing. So for these past couple of years, the Cleveland Browns have actually managed to be a somewhat relevant franchise. They were actually making noise in the NFL playoffs just a couple of years ago. So they were a pretty prominent team, and it was like, oh shoot, like these guys could be on the verge of something. Obviously, they play in a very competitive AFC North conference, but they looked like they could have been building towards something. That's obviously kind of gone down the tubes now, but I don't know what it's going to be with Baker Mayfield now. I really don't know what his situation is going to look like. I don't know if Cleveland will eventually honor his request and get him out of there, but I don't know, man. It really just shows that the Cleveland Browns just can't outdo themselves.
I mean, here's my question: is the thing is, if Baker Mayfield doesn't leave, if they force him to stay, they don't honor his trade. What do they expect from it? If I'm walking on the field, like, am I going to try? Like, what is Baker Mayfield going to do? Is he going to give 100%? Is he going to actually try? Because that's the thing. You can force a guy to stay, but you can't force somebody to buy into something. And that's the thing. If they can't get Baker to buy in back to this program that they have in Cleveland, then they have no shot at any success anyways. Like, that's the thing. Keeping him is one thing. Having him buy in and give all the time outside of like the 40 hours a week they already have to give to football is another thing. That's just a whole other task in itself. And right now they can't even get him to stay willingly.
Yeah, but Sean, the other side of that coin though is that if Baker was just to go out there and throw 5 picks a game and absolutely kind of just completely give up on trying on the team, it would basically kind of say to these other teams, it would evidently lower his own trade value, because all these other teams looking at him would basically say, oh, if we don't give this guy exactly what he wants, he's going to go out there, throw a fit, and cost our team games. So I think Baker Mayfield is going to go out there and pretty much just ball out in hopes that either Cleveland actually comes forward, apologizes, and offers him a really big deal, or they actually do decide to trade him to a team that he thinks that he actually likes. So I don't know what that team could look like. Maybe I from what I've heard, the Colts have been in those conversations as a possible suitor for him. That could be a very interesting situation there, but it's going to take a lot of mending of the fences in order to get things right in Cleveland.
No, I 100% agree, and I'm interested to see what happens. Will they get rid of him? Will they mend it? Will he buy all it? Like, will he buy back into that program they got in Cleveland, or is he just going to go out there and sling it and say whatever, and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah,
that's all we can wait for.
Yeah, I mean, we are gonna have to wait on that. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation up in the air with that, Sean. So we are gonna have to wait and see. Something we're also gonna have to wait and see on right now is whether we were hinting at the two off seasons, obviously the NFL off season and the MLB off season. One team from up here which we are hoping can make more news in the NFL offseason, obviously, is the New England Patriots. They've had a very quiet offseason this year compared to, at least compared to last year's offseason, where they got all the free agents. I mean, they literally signed every single guy you could have wanted. I mean, Matthew Judon, Jonnu Smith, who evidently was a bust. That kind of sucked. But Hunter Henry, they got Jalen Mills. You got a bunch of great guys in free agency, and we're able to rebuild your core very quickly and, make yourself a playoff contender once again. This year, though, you kind of had to switch things up, and there were some obviously after that playoff loss to the Bills, people were wondering, all right, what is going to be the Patriots' next move? And this offseason, in comparison to last one, is a bit more par for the course as to what you can expect from a New England Patriots offseason. They're bringing back some key veterans, which they think are valuable, like James White, Devin McCourty, and Matthew Slater, some guys that have been with this organization now for many years and that they have a good level of trust in. I'm actually surprised that they brought back James White, because he is a running back now entering into his late 20s and 30s. And in my opinion, I thought they were going to probably just dump him for a cheaper option. That obviously didn't happen because they signed him to a 2-year deal. So there is some there's going to be some interesting things going on with that. They've also been making a couple small moves in free agency. Again, nothing too big. I know from on the defensive side of the ball, they ended up signing cornerback Terrence Mitchell to a 1-year deal. They also ended up signing running back Ty Montgomery to a 2-year, $4 million deal. In terms of real impact, that's the biggest one that I can see so far. And then on the loss side, they have lost some pretty big guys. They ended up losing Ted Karras to the Cincinnati Bengals. So Joe Burrow is going to be getting a little extra protection behind the line. And then evidently, again, we discussed it at the beginning of this episode in the Tom Brady section. Shaq Mason obviously got traded to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then obviously, after that, the biggest loss that we have definitely faced this offseason has been J.C. Jackson going to the LA Chargers. I'm not saying we were going to be able to pay JC, but it's a big loss nonetheless. The Pats, again, they're going to have to make some moves this offseason, and I don't know what that's going to look like. They don't have a ton of cap space, but I got to tell you, man, I'm nervous about this. It doesn't look too great for what they have on the table, but maybe Bill Belichick can spin this in some way.
I mean, I haven't seen much from the Patriots, but honestly, it's quite more what I expected. Like you were saying, this is more of a typical Patriots thing. And we don't know what Bill Belichick's got, in the works behind doors. And this is in classic Bill Belichick fashion. I mean, we're also early. So there's plenty of time still for moves to be made. So I think that's something we have to sit on, see what Bill Belichick is working on. Because I think there's definitely something back there right now behind the door that we don't see. Because obviously this recipe has worked for them in the past. So maybe he's got something up his sleeve that none of us know about yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's my hope. My hope is that they have something, kind of behind their, up their sleeve. But I really don't know what the deal is going to be, because, you just lost 2 of your premier offensive linemen in Karras and Mason. And, with Mac Jones in his second year, again, this is the year where he is going to, undertake the most development. This is his, everyone has said your second year as an NFL quarterback is your most important year in the league. And so far, we've lost Josh McDaniels, the guy that, really helped him get on track. We lost him to the Raiders. Now we're bringing in Joe Judge, who was our former special teams coach, to, possibly be our quarterbacks coach, as well as Matt Patricia, who was, again, our old defensive coordinator, possibly even holding the play sheet for offense. So we're already doing that on the coaching staff side. And then you lose those O linemen. It doesn't seem like a great mix for Mac Jones so far, which is my main concern this next year. I mean, if anything else, I just want Mac Jones to be in a good spot to develop and become a better quarterback. It really is nothing more than that. And I don't know if these moves that we're making are necessarily putting him in a good position.
I mean, again, Bill Belichick's had plenty of years of experience, so there must be something again that he sees that you don't see or I don't see. He's got a plan of some sort.
I mean, you expect that, but then again, we could go out this season and have a very terribly ranked O line. I mean, Karras and Mason, whether I had my problems with them or not, they were able to do the job most of the time. And I don't know whether Belichick is going to be able to replace those guys. Maybe he sees some great talent in the draft, and we're going to go get some O linemen maybe in the later rounds. But I don't know how I feel about having a bunch of rookie O linemen surrounding Mac Jones either. I don't know how I feel about that. So there's it's kind of a mixed bag there.
I mean, let's look at what's his name. He made a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow made a Super Bowl with one of the worst O lines. Were they the worst in the league, or they were pretty much down there? It was
pretty much the worst in the league, and it cost him though, because obviously he was able to keep it close for a good portion just because of how talented he is, and credit to him for that. But at the end of the day, the Rams also set a Super Bowl record for sacks. I mean, or at least tied one rather.
No, I think that's fair, but I think the point I was gonna get at is like, the O-line's important, don't get me wrong. I play O-line. I understand it's very important. But at the same time, if you have enough trust in your quarterback, if you can put together something up there, anything up there, I mean, it's hard to be worse than what they put up, what the Bengals put on the field last year. If you can put something at least better than that, then as long as your quarterback's talented enough, it might get you somewhere. And that might be what he's banking on.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, I have faith in Mac Jones too, that he's going to step up in year two. But, you look at Joe Burrow and the main difference is that, while Joe Burrow isn't Lamar Jackson back there, he has some pretty solid mobility and he's able to use his legs from time to time. Mac Jones really doesn't have that. He can get out there more than the last guy that we had there, obviously Tom Brady. I mean, I'm not even counting the Cam Newton year. Don't even come at me with that. But obviously, he has more mobility than a guy like Tom Brady, but that's not saying much. He's able to, do the bare minimum as a quarterback. Traditionally, Mac Jones is that more gunslinger-esque type quarterback. So I don't know really how he's going to adjust when, you don't have that protection back there. Joe Burrow can maybe move around when the O-line is breaking down around him. Mac Jones needs that O-line to, really assert itself, keep him protected for those 3-4 seconds, or, 2-3 even. And he can then make a precise throw down the field. That's how that kind of a quarterback beats you and is great. If you don't have that for a guy like him, then there isn't a good shot that he can be great.
No, that's very fair. I'm just trying to right now justify in my head, I guess, like what they might be going after. And that's the closest thing I'm seeing right now.
But this is the thing though. People always try to justify these Bill Belichick moves as if Bill Belichick always has a card up his sleeve. Sometimes Bill Belichick can have a card up his sleeve whether it's drafting a guy on defense. But and again, I'm never going to question the coaching excellence of Bill Belichick. He's the greatest coach to ever step on a football field, in my opinion. But him as a GM, it's not really the type of reputation you think about. I mean, he's not that guy as a GM. He's made some terrible mistakes, whether it be in the draft or free agency. Obviously, we had a major splurge in free agency this year, and it was great for us because we were able to get back. We were able to get back on track. But even that run, we had some bad moves that kind of blew up in our face. Jonnu Smith being one of them. I thought that he was going to be a really good guy when he came in here, but he pretty much just looked like a complete dud. So I don't know whether Bill Belichick really knows the impact of these moves. Again, I think if you're trying to build a defense and you're trying to build one for cheap, Bill Belichick is a great guy to bring in there. But if you're talking about getting, good O linemen around guys, I don't know if that's going to be Bill Belichick's forte.
No, that's very fair. And I've never thought about it that way, from like how it's more of a GM perspective than it is a coaching perspective. And actually, that's probably something a lot of people don't think about, but that's very true. Bill Belichick has made a lot of moves that have been poor. So
yeah, and it's tough too because if many Patriots fans could definitely do without Bill the GM, but it's a dual-edged sword, because if you were to get rid of Bill the GM, you 100% get rid of Bill the coach as well, because Bill wants all the power. He's not going to let Kraft come in, in year freaking 22, 23 at this point and say to him, hey, we've given you all this power for this long, but we want to bring in this new analytics guy that's we think has a better eye for the game. Bill Belichick's going to say, you think that I don't have a good eye for the game? You know me. I am the greatest coach of all time. I'm going to go coach the Giants. I'll see you. Like that's Bill Belichick's way of thinking. I don't want to mess around with that, because I'm afraid of what the Patriots will look like with Bill Belichick gone. I don't want to see Matt Patricia or anyone like that become the coach here. So I don't really know what to do at that point. It puts you in a very difficult position. And I don't know if Belichick realizes the true danger he may be in, or at least maybe even the true danger he might be putting Mac Jones in next year.
I mean, like anything we've been talking about today, it's early. It's very early. And all we can do is wait and see what happens. We still get the draft. So like you said, he could pick up a couple of linemen there. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Maybe there's confidence in the guys who were behind these guys in the depth charts that we just didn't know about. We don't know what they're fully capable of.
No, and I mean, that's definitely a possibility, because something that's very popular in the Patriot system is, for a pro system, they actually kind of like redshirt guys. I mean, one guy in particular that they did that with was Damian Harris. His first year in New England, he didn't touch the field, and slowly over time, we worked him more and more into the offense, to the point where now he's one of the better running backs, in the league almost, that we've, at this point where we've gotten him to. So it is possible that, Belichick maybe has some guys kind of in the weight that he wants to bring up and, become like the next staples here in New England. But I can't be certain that that's the case. And even if that is, who knows if those guys are going to pan out, because they've probably never touched an NFL field.
No, I mean, that's 100% true, but we don't know. We don't know what they got back there. Just that you just said it yourself. We have no idea what they got coming up. We have no idea how they're going to do it. Bill Belichick probably doesn't have much of an idea either. How you practice, they say how you practice is how you play, but sometimes when you step on the field, you're a totally different person. You just have to see with time.
Exactly. It's going to depend what these guys can actually do when they do touch the field. So there is a lot of speculation still going on in New England. There is some speculation going on elsewhere in the AFC East, but there is at least some knowns. There are at least some things being known at this point. One of those points is that the Buffalo Bills just signed Von Miller to a 6-year, $120 million contract, which is something that I didn't think I would even be saying in the year 2022. Von Miller for 6 years is something that something you could have told me my freshman year of high school, and I would have been like, okay, that's believable. At this point, we're a couple weeks out from, at least in my mind, from hearing that Von Miller was, thinking about retirement. Now he's signing a 6-year contract to go to Buffalo, and for that kind of a cost too. That's incredible for him. I mean, obviously, I want to meet his agent, because he just got away with robbery. So congratulations to him, because I think, now Von Miller is going to get paid till he's 38 years old as a linebacker. And I'm like, I don't know if he's going to make it another 2 years, because those guys, the shelf life of those guys is completely unknown. So, I mean, again, congratulations to Von Miller's agent, because you literally got away with, highway robbery. So, I mean, good for you, man. But that's obviously going to be something very interesting too. When I saw that move go down, though, I was completely shocked. I was, Von Miller to the Bills. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then I saw the price, and then I saw the years, not even the price tag. I saw the years, and I was like, there's no way. There's no way you're giving this guy that much, that many years. And I don't know if there's an opt-out clause. I don't know if there's a certain number of guaranteed years that they can get out of with that contract. It's, it's all kind of relative, but I don't know, that contract to me is crazy.
No, I mean, even when I got the notification, it was, all you got was Von Miller signs with Buffalo. And you're like, all right, it's fine. I feel believable, whatever, go on.
The other thing too, I was like, oh, he's ring chasing. Okay, he maybe signed a 1-2 year deal. Maybe he's going there to ring chase. But then, yeah, go ahead.
That was my first thought. I was like, all right, he signed a year contract, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Later that day, I actually got the real 6 years. I'm like, he's old. I'm like, I remember playing with this guy like back in Madden 25, like way back in the day. Like, this guy's a fossil at this point.
He got drafted. He was drafted a pick after Cam Newton.
He's old.
Yeah.
And And especially as a linebacker at 32 years old, now he's going to go sign a 6-year contract. That was the part, just like you said, that's the part that got me. It wasn't even the price tag, but it was the 6 years. I was like, there's no way this man plays for 6 more years.
Yeah.
No way. And for the price tag he got, that was insane too.
I mean, if he plays for 6 more years, he will have been a linebacker in the NFL for 17 seasons. That doesn't happen that often. I mean, that rarely happens as a linebacker.
No, those guys take a beating. They're usually one of the first ones to go.
Yeah. The only thing I can imagine, though, is that's got to be a very front-loaded, heavy contract for a guy like him. That's the only thing I can imagine, though.
I'm curious to know what the guarantees are on that, because 120 million, just looking at it on the surface, is a big number.
Yeah, I mean, let me pull that up. Let me pull that up and let me take a look at his new contract with the Bills. Because there is a way that you can do that. So let me go on Sports Track real quick and see how this thing is lined up. Okay, so at this point, there is no real breakdown of the salary yet. It just says that his average salary is going to be $20 million. That's all we get out of this so far. From there, though, yeah, it basically just says it's going to be a straight 20 million a year. It doesn't say that's broken down any which way. So that again, that's a huge commitment, and it's going to pay him till he's 38 years old.
That's the 38 years old playing linebacker in the NFL. How often you hear that?
I mean, linebackers and running backs, those are the two positions where, once those guys hit their 30s, they usually hit a wall.
Well, and that's for multiple reasons. They take the biggest beating on the field. I shouldn't say the biggest beating because the line, but they take the biggest impacts on the field. As you get older, you get slower. And as you get older, you get more fragile. And they, again, like I said, take some of the hardest hits. So, of course, they're the first ones off on the boat to retire. But that's also why they're some of the highest paid players. I mean, the only people who get paid more are quarterbacks, but quarterbacks nowadays, you can't even touch them. So, of course, they play until they're 40.
Yeah,
Brady was going to play until he's 55.
I mean, a guy like Von Miller, when he probably got his contract extension or whatnot from the Broncos, that should have been his big payday, and that's usually it for a guy like him. Again, the fact that he got another payday is unbelievable, the fact that he got that.
What I want to know is what the Bills were thinking. Like, what's the Bills' thought process behind all this? Because sure, we can say Von Miller's agent just performed highway robbery, but what was the Bills' thought process? Like, did nobody in the front office go, wait a minute, this guy's 32 and we're going to give him $120 million in 6 years?
I mean, Sean, no
one raised that question.
I mean, Sean, they might have been doing the same thing as you. They might have just been playing Madden 25 and would have been like, "Oh, this guy's awesome. Oh, he's available. Let's go get him." And it was like, "How old is he?" And they were like, "Oh, let me go check the rosters. Oh, 24. Let's go get him." I'm like, what are you thinking, dude? I mean, 4 years I could have even understood. Those last two, though, those are going to be years where you're really going to regret that contract. And I don't know. I mean, you can think of some bad sports contracts. This could really be the next bad sports contract if you really do think about it.
This is a huge gamble for Buffalo. And in the position they're in, I don't know why they would do it. I have no idea why they would take such a risk. They've already got a good team up there. All they could have done is get them for a couple of years. It would have made them better. That's all they need. It's not like they're still really building. They're kind of there. They're kind of a playoff team almost. Like, what more, what I want to know what went through the front office's head. Like, I truly wish they made a statement, just like what their thought process was behind, let's do 6 years, 32-year-old linebacker, and for $120 million.
No, in my opinion, this has the making to become one of the worst sports contracts in the history in the history of pro sports. I mean, I think that I think that Von Miller will be able to produce, but I don't know if he's going to be able to produce for the entire length of that contract. And I'm looking up some bad sports contracts right now, and I'm like, okay, okay, I'm seeing guys like Josh Hamilton, I'm seeing Bobby Bonilla, which are more infamous rather for other reasons. I think just in terms of, general investment, though, $20 million to a guy like him, unless you know that the cap is going to go to like $350 million, that's a really bad look.
And that's the thing, is we don't know, like where's Von Miller going to be in 4 years? Yeah, right now he's great. 2 years, he's great. 3 years, he's great. That 4th year, he's okay. That 5th year,
garbage.
Sort of okay. And by that 6th year, you're paying 20. Is he worth 20 million at that point? Is he still worth the 20 million?
I mean, Sean, I think you're being I think you're being nice by saying by that 5th year he'll be okay. I don't know if by year 5, he'll even be in the league at that point come that 5th year. He might be out after 3 if, let alone they win, in the end, if they were to go out and win a Super Bowl, you can always make the case and say, you know what, it was worth it. But even when Von Miller was with the Rams this year, people were saying that people were saying, all right, yeah, Von Miller to the Rams. It's a great deal to have. And obviously he was a great addition to that defense. But even with him being a great addition, people were saying, yeah, he's a great addition, but he's not that guy he was when he was in Denver. Like,
no, he's absolutely not.
People were saying that when he was with the Rams winning a Super Bowl for them. People said, you know what? Great trade, great addition. He's not that guy anymore. And apparently the Bills don't get that memo. I guess it's because, he plays so far away and they only get to watch him on TV. But, I think the Bills honestly could be in for a rude awakening here.
I mean, it's going to be interesting when it unfolds. I mean, all that we can say is it depends how long Von Miller lasts. It depends how long his body keeps going. And for all we know, he could pull a miracle right out of his rear end and play 6 years of fantastic football. Do I think it's going to happen? No, but it could.
I really don't think it's going to happen because, again, I think that he'd have to get back to the point of dominance he was in Denver. And even in those couple games in Denver this past season before he got traded, he didn't look like that guy anymore. He looked like, again, still a good player for a good chip for a championship roster. But I don't think that he's that guy. And I don't know and I really think this is a terrible contract to pay to a guy like him. Obviously, congrats to him, obviously, on getting the bag. I have no, nothing but respect for him for doing something like that. But for the Bills, though, yikes. That's the only thing I can say there. Obviously, Sean, that's a pretty crazy move going on there. We were kind of linking that to how the Patriots might be in some trouble this offseason, both with teams in the division spending money and with them, not really going after some premier free agents. We're kind of seeing a parallel between the Patriots and, their Major League Baseball counterpart, the Boston Red Sox. There's kind of a very similar vibe going on with those two teams where they've kind of just seen all these crazy moves go by and, they've pretty much remained stagnant. And it's been even more apparent in the MLB because the MLB just came out of a lockout, which lasted 99 days. And since that's happened, the free agency world has absolutely just lit on fire. We've seen guys like Chris Bryant go to the Colorado Rockies. Just today, we saw Freddie Freeman sign with the Los Angeles Dodgers, which has everyone up in arms right now. And even in the trade market, we saw the Blue Jays acquire Matt Chapman. We saw the Cubs take Seiya Suzuki from Japan. He was a premier Japanese prospect. And even the Red Sox lost, one of the premier guys that they got at the trade deadline last year, Kyle Schwaber. He's going to the Phillies on a 2-year, I believe, $80 million deal. So, the Red Sox really did lose out on a lot of guys that they, possibly could have been in on so far. And, really they've just been, sitting idly by since since this lockout has ended. The biggest move that they've made since the lockout has ended has been Jake Diekman. That's it. And I'm not expecting you to know who Jake Diekman is. I know you're a baseball. I know you like the Yankees and I know you like baseball, but you shouldn't have to know who Jake Diekman is to know that that's not really, the move that the Red Sox are. That shouldn't be your move.
No, and the only thing I've seen is Trevor Story. That's like who they're supposedly after now. But
I have seen that, and I have seen that, and that does intrigue me. So if they are to go out there and get a guy like Trevor Story, I could eat my words right now and I could say, you know what, they went out there and they got their guy. And who knows, maybe before the end of the show, we get an announcement that comes in, but I really don't know I really don't know what the deal is right now. Obviously Chaim Bloom just went on, there was a quote from him during the Red Sox spring training game today where some of the NESN crew was speaking with him. And he said, you know what, man, things are moving a mile a minute right now. And I'm like, all right, but Chaim, can you handle that? Because you've come in here and you've had your small ball approach, and guess what? It did you well last season. We were able to get to the ALCS, so credit to you for that. But do you have it in you to go out there and actually make a move to where you can say, you know what, we went to the ALCS last year, we lost a big guy in Kyle Schwarber. I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna spend for a big piece here and get a guy like Trevor Story. Do you have that in you? And I genuinely don't know if he does.
I don't think he does. I mean, I think if he did, we would have seen something by now, especially
Yeah.
with the amount of stuff that's already happened, the big moves that have already been made. At this point, if he's stalling, like if he's just doesn't know what to do, he's just making it worse. His
Yeah.
big names are going to keep coming off the board. And when they keep coming, eventually there's less and less to choose from.
Yeah.
So by waiting, he's only making it worse.
Yeah. In my mind, if the only way I see us again, anything can change because I mean, different sports reference, but it is March. So anything can happen in March. But the only way I see this happening is unless Trevor Story's value plummets to a point where, Heim thinks that he can get him on a cheap deal and, maybe it's a 1 or 2 year deal or something like that. That's the only case in which I see Heim Bloom going after a guy like Trevor Story, because it's never been in Heim's nature to spend big. And I don't know if I don't know if this offseason is going to be the one where he says, all right, now I've changed my mind. I want to go out there and really show off how much money I got in my wallet. I don't know if that lockout changed his DNA, because this is who he is. He is built on, building a small ball team with a big roster. That's kind of what he's become here in Boston.
But I think the problem is when you're in the MLB, if you don't have at least 1 or 2 big name guys, you're only going to get so far.
Yeah. And I mean,
Of
listen,
course,
but at the same time, though, the Red Sox have big name guys. They have Bogarts, they have JD, but it's about being able to prove that you're willing to compete with those other teams. Because even the New York Yankees, your team, they went out and they just got Josh Donaldson from the Twins. And I know Josh Donaldson isn't the MVP that he was in Toronto at this point, but he's still a pretty quality third baseman. And I think could be a prominent power threat in your lineup. Meanwhile, the Red Sox are probably trying to, figure out what reserve third baseman they can turn into the next premier, outfielder or whatnot, Franchi Cordero or something like that.
No, I think that's what I was going to get at. Is that there's no sense of urgency to like what's happening on the field now. The sense of urgency is always to what's behind the scenes, what's to come. And I think that's like the biggest downfall of the Red Sox right now. Because it's like, it's great. We can get to the ALCS. We have a decent team put together, talented one.
But other teams, yeah, exactly.
But,
go ahead.
But other teams also have that. But it's like, what you need is like, you need that one piece, at least one piece, who's going to give you that extra edge to get past the ALCS. Because right now you hit a wall. You hit a wall of the ALCS. And the question is, what are you going to do to get past it? That's how I always look at pro teams, right? If a pro team doesn't make the playoffs, okay, well, what are you going to do to make the playoffs next year? They make the playoffs and they get out of the first round. All right, what are you going to do to make the second round? What are you going to do to make the third round? What are you going to do to make championship? Like that's the thing, is you're always going, how am I going to get to that next step? And right now he's so content where he is how it seems. But it's like, it's not even like he wants to get to that next step. He cares about what's, like you said, the reserve third baseman, not how can I get from the ALCS to the World Series.
Yeah, and a World Series championship at that. I think, for Heim, it is about that slow grind. But at the same time, you need to know when to strike when the iron is hot. If you see a guy in front of you, don't wait for an opportunity 3-4 years down the line. If you see a guy that you think can, get you there now, then go and get that. Because at the same time, I know there's the idea of building for a championship, and that, there's like a 3 to 4 year window in which you build and you acquire pieces and you trade off guys from the farm. But if you see something in front of you, go take it. I mean, again, for a guy like Trevor Story, I don't see that as like a Hanley Ramirez or Pablo Sandoval type contract where, you're giving it to a guy that isn't that good. Trevor Story's a good player, and I think could help you right away if you were to get him in here. So I think for Heim, I at the trade deadline, when we didn't go out there and get a ton of guys at the deadline, which, evidently maybe proved to be the right move for us. Maybe not, because we did evidently lose to Houston, but his big philosophy was that he doesn't want to give up something that's going to damage the future reputation of the team for a short-term gratification, I think is what he referred to it as. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. If you don't want to, go out there and get, just some random guy just for the sake of getting him and give up a top prospect, I can respect that. But at the same time, you need to be at least willing to give up some decent talent in order to acquire, major league talent on the side of it.
I mean, the question I ask is, is it a matter of he doesn't like making business decisions, or is it a matter of he can't put business and emotion separate? Because it almost sounds like he's like getting attached to the guys that are on the roster. Like, I love these guys. Like, these guys are my team. And
it's kind of like Danny Ainge with his draft picks. Obviously, you remember how he was with how Danny Ainge was with his draft picks, where he was very attached to him, and that was almost kind of worse because you didn't even know the guys on the other side of that. Heim Bloom's looking at these guys and he's like, oh, I got this really nice pitcher in A-ball. I think he's going to be really good in 5 years. And I'm like, All right, man, 5 years is great. Where's Xander Bogaerts going to be in 5 years? Where's Rafael Devers going to be in 5 years? We don't know that. So listen, this guy could be a stud in 5 years, but you have studs on your roster now that you actually need to actually go make moves for.
No, I mean that's the biggest thing right now is like teams, and Miami does it in NFL, and they do it in all pro sports. But I noticed it mostly with Miami is they always are like, oh, but the future, we're building. But how long can you build? You know, like you said, it's a 3 to 4 year window.
The Jets have been rebuilding. The Jets have been, yeah, exactly. The Jets have been rebuilding my entire life. So who knows?
Even the Browns, and the Browns are 0-16. It took them how many years to get Baker Mayfield and get off their feet for a little bit? You know, that's the thing is, like you say, you're always rebuilding, but sometimes I feel like teams get these coaches that are so focused on like their development teams, especially in baseball, having the whole farm system. I think you get so caught up in coaches like are like, oh, I got this pitcher in single A, this guy in double A, this guy in triple A. You know, they're all great. Eventually, they're going to be pros, blah blah blah. And instead of using what they just said as, hey, I can use that as trade value. Well, yeah. Hey, I'll give you 3 AAA prospects. You give me a little, But instead of doing that, it seems like they get more attached to these guys. Like, oh, like their mind is set. He's going to be on my roster in 5 years. He's going to be my ace. He's this, he's that. Like they look so far ahead that they almost miss the picture right in front of them. Like, hey, I could trade that guy right now, get this guy, make my team better now, make a run for the World Series. Or I can talk about how great he's going to be in 5 years, use him in 5 years, not know where any of my active roster is going to be in 5 years. But that's okay because I have him.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. So obviously, you could make a case that, obviously when you have a team that sucks, there's a reason that rebuilding and going through a process like that makes sense. Obviously, it's kind of a tainted example now, but look at the Houston Astros. When they tanked for years, and they got guys like Carlos Correa, they got Alex Bregman, they got actual really good talent through that method. And then they also acquired some trash cans. They acquired some bats. They acquired some people to bang some bats against those trash cans. And then, they went on and won a World Series. Evidently, though, regardless of the cheating scandal, they were able to build a team that and they were able to get very talented players through the draft and through development and through whatnot. You are able to do that. And I completely respect doing that when you have a team that, before the Astros got good, they are a 100 loss team. They were garbage in Major League Baseball. So I can understand doing that and going out and getting guys like that. But when you have a team that just lost the ALCS, your thought process should be, all right, what can I do right now to take us over the top? That happened with the Red Sox in 2016 and 17. After you lost in 2016 when Rick Porcello won the Cy Young, it was like, all right, what are we going to do? Not Rick Porcello. It was just in 2016. When we lost to, I think it was the Indians, it was like, all right, what are we going to do? We're going to go out. We're going to get Chris Sale. It was like, oh shoot, we're going out there. We're making moves. After we lost to the Astros, it was like, all right, what's our next move going to be? All right, we're going to sign JD Martinez. Move at the time, which was kind of controversial because people saw Giancarlo Stanton as a possible option, but that evidently ended up working itself out. And you know what we did from there? We went on and we won a World Series. Jaime needs to learn at this point. All right, we were just off of the ALCS. Again, we had a very good roster. And if you want to put some small pieces around that you think can improve us, little by little, I can respect that. But you also need to go out there and throw the hammer down and say, you know what, we're the Boston Red Sox. We were just in this race and we're going to finish it this year.
That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with looking to the future, but you also got to look right now. Granted, I don't care if the Red Sox go 0-162. I love that. Okay, personally, I that'd be the best year of my life. The year the Red Sox don't win a game. But at the same time, I still feel for you guys in the sense of like I was saying, Miami's the same way. It's all about the future. It's all about the future. It's all about the future. I want to see it now. I want to see my team win now. I don't want to wait 10 years from now because 10 years from now, the roster I have now is going to be gone. And then this new potential great talent is going to be here and we're going to be at the same spot.
And great.
The thing is,
but here's the thing, Sean.
On this chain.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Sean. That's great if that new roster can win in 10 years. Win with them. Win with these guys, though, now. Win with these guys while you have them before Xander Bogaerts says, you know what? My time here in Boston's up. I'm gonna go play elsewhere. Win, impress Rafi Devers enough to where he's willing to say, you know what, I want to re-sign with Boston for another 10 years. I want to be the third baseman for this team. Don't let it get to the point. Don't let it get to the point where you have to go, oh, all these guys are gone now, and I'm gonna hope and pray that all my minor leaguers work out. Because as soon as you do that, and then a good couple of them don't, which is usually the case, you're gonna end up just screwed, man.
I mean, the thing I was getting at with this is like, this is your team now. Like, they're up here somewhere and you're building. They leave. Now you're stuck at the same spot where you started.
Yeah. And evidently enough, it's going to cost you more money. Obviously, re-signing guys and bringing guys back. That's going to cost you money. I'm not, taking that out of account. But say you lose Xander Bogaerts, say you lose Rafi Devers, possibly, even if you can get, young talent and build it up through the minor leagues and whatnot, you're still probably going to have to go out there and spend for a premier pitcher. That's going to end up costing you. If you want to get a guy like JD Martinez, that's going to cost you. So, you still need to have the presence of mind to go out there and, pay for these guys.
I think he's going to make a move. I think he's going to do something, or otherwise Boston's going to end up back in the same spot where they were last year.
In my opinion, I think they could take a step back. I think the run they went on to reach the ALCS was great, but I don't know if they don't make a move, I'm not confident that they can do it again. I mean, listen, James Paxton, who they acquired before the lockout, I think could be a very sneaky good piece, but outside of that, I really don't know if our talent is going to be able to capitalize again. Again, remember, Kike Hernandez turned into the hottest hitter on the planet. Who saw that coming? Obviously it was a great October for him, but I don't see him, getting any MVP odds coming into this year and becoming an absolute threat. I think he could be a decent leadoff hitter again, but outside of that, I really don't see too much. I don't really see too much else. There are some great pieces that I think could develop further, guys like Alex Verdugo, but then again, who knows? I mean, he's still young enough that he could completely fall off. So I think that you need to go out there. You need to make these moves now, and you strike while the iron is hot.
I think that I 100% agree, but I don't think he's going to do it. I
do not think that he's going to do it. This is me begging to Chaim Bloom to actually make a move, because I just have no confidence that he's actually willing to do it. Even when the guy could be at Fenway ready to sign the papers, and Chaim might be sliding the papers away, being like, that's a lot of money. I don't think I want to do it. I don't want to do it. It's too much of a commitment. We have the process. And then evidently that guy leaves.
He's got to do something. He's got to do something where he's going to be stuck, and you're not going to see a Red Sox World Series for a long, long time.
Yeah, you have to do something, and I hope that he actually is willing to pull the trigger. Obviously, I mentioned some guys that we lost, like Kyle Schwaber. He left for the Phillies. That was something that I worried about happening as soon as the universal DH became a thing in the MLB. Obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, as a part of the new collective bargaining agreement, the National League will now be getting a DH, something that I'm not really a fan of. I liked the differences between the two leagues, but it's now something that's gonna, be around now, and we're seeing the effects of that now. Obviously, Nelson Cruz went to the Washington Nationals, and now we're seeing Kyle Schwaber go to the Philadelphia Phillies, a move that last year people would have been saying, oh, where are you going to play him? You going to put him at first base? You going to put him in the outfield? But now the conversation is, all right, we got our DH, and that's what Kyle Schwaber is going to be for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now they have that certified. So obviously it's a very, very, very interesting situation there. And, it's a tough loss to the Red Sox. I don't know what they're going to do to counteract that, because he was a great trade deadline acquisition for us. I like to crap on Chaim a lot, but that was a great move. So I don't know what it's going to look like, and I hope we can make some pretty solid moves down the line.
See, this is why I like the universal DH, because it makes the whole trading picture just way more interesting. Because now, instead of it just being half the league fighting for all these DHs, now you got the entire league fighting. I think the universal DH has just spiced up everything, because now you get all these NL teams going, we need a hitter, we need a hitter, we need a hitter. Then you got these AL teams that are like, we don't know what to do. Think about it. Half the league had a guarantee fighting for who their DH was going to be. Now, every team needs a DH. So now it has just spiced up the entire trade market. Like you were saying, we've already seen a year ago, you would have called some of these trades crazy. Now we're looking at them, we're like, all right, that makes sense. They need a DH. But now it's leaving some of these other teams in a hole, and it's making the whole picture very, very interesting. So that's why, personally, I'm a fan of the universal DH.
But
that's one of the reasons.
The reason I don't like it now is it basically just makes the AL and the NL, the AFC and the NFC of the MLB. There's no difference between the teams now. There's nothing that makes
what's wrong? What's wrong with that? That's the AFC and the NFC have nothing different between them. Why aren't they just one thing?
Because again, I think I say this on the show anytime I talk about baseball at this point, but the AL and NL were two separate leagues. And, this is before the DH was even introduced. One league had different balls, one league had different umpires, one league had different strike zone measurements. And the difference between having the DH in one league versus the other, in my mind, was kind of the only thing that really harkened back to the old tradition of the game. And it was something that I found. And it's something I found to be interesting because guess what? When an NL team comes over here, they have to have a guy bat. And when we go over to play in an NL park, David Ortiz has to go out there and play first base, or otherwise he's not playing in that lineup. Something I found to be very interesting. And it was always kind of a challenge when you had guys playing that ballpark. It was something that I kind of really liked seeing.
I agree that's interesting, but I also believe in modern sports, like in modern professional sports, the rule set is just an even rule set. Every football team plays by the same rules. Every soccer team plays by the same rules. Every other professional sport, hockey, all those, they play by the same rules, no matter where they're from. Granted, they change it up a little bit. Sometimes, like football, obviously Canada is a little different. But I'm saying as far as most of the sports go, or like internal, like United States sports, it's the same. Baseball is the only one where there's a difference, literally within the same league.
Well, no, but here's the thing though. But by having a team win the World Series, you can make the case for saying which league is better. You can actually make that argument.
I know, but I don't know. For me, it's just like I think with the universal DH, it evens everything. Because the other thing is like we have stats in the MLB, right? Stats that are like, oh, what's his batting average with 2 outs? What's this with that? And the thing is like if you're that leadoff hitter, and say you started with the 7th man in your order, 6th man in your order, your 9 hitter, if you're in the NL, is an automatic out 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah, but Sean,
it's not.
But Sean, yeah. who's won the World Series the past 3 years? The NL. They've been able to manage without the DH. You had the Braves go out there and were absolute juggernauts. It's not like there aren't power hitters in the NL. Obviously, you had them led by a guy in Freddie Freeman. You had the Braves who won the World Series last year, led by a guy in Freddie Freeman. He can obviously mash. Then you go to the LA Dodgers. They came in there with an absolute firestorm, and then you finish it off with the last NL team to win all 3 was the Washington Nationals. They went in there and beat the Astros in 2019, right as the cheating scandal was starting. And and teams, and, it's not like NL teams can't go and win the World Series. It's not like there was this huge discrepancy. You can make a case for that discrepancy in the All-Star game, but even in that game, you have a universal DH and the AL just reigns supreme. So in the World Series, it really just was whoever is the best team was going to win. The DH, in my opinion, really played no role in determining that.
See, for me, so in the World Series, if we're going to go to that, which it's a little different
because once the World Series rolls around, you have it's not like the AL's rolling in there with a DH and you're forced to put your pitcher at the plate. The AL has to put that pitcher who hasn't batted all season at the plate.
That's what I was going to get at. I think that's unfair also. That's the problem. That's the thing is like the NL comes into the World Series, right? They're playing, maybe they're on the road the first game. They can take a guy who's played all season. Maybe they have a guy who's rotating at first base, whatever. They can put him at the DH position. He's had at-bats. He's had everything. Now the AL's pitcher, they can do that. Going the other way around, the NL pitcher is already batted all year. Granted, he's probably going to bunt, blah, 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 but he's been bunt practicing all year. He's ready, good to go. The AL pitcher probably hasn't picked up a bat all season because why would he? He barely hits if he does it. So I think there's an unfair advantage that goes in favor of the NL only because when they're the home team, their pitchers have already batted, and when they're the away team,
you've called them an automatic out anyways.
No, I said they're not. I'm talking about when NL teams play each other statistically wise. If we look at AL statistics and NL statistics, the statistics can't be considered the same because they're an automatic out. Like they're not automatic, but they're more of an out. But they're still more strategically used. Like they know they're like I was saying, they can't work in. So if I know where to bunt the ball, if I'm a good bunter, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be out, but I might know how to move the runners. The AL batter might walk up there and go, well, I don't know what to do. I've never really been in this situation. Like that's the thing is it made the game not, I don't want to say not fair, but like for me, it just was an unbalanced playing field.
I mean, in terms of strategy, though, I couldn't think of a better strategy. And where it gets into the sixth inning, you have a pitcher who's dealing, and his spot in the lineup comes up. You need a crucial base hit with 2 outs, and you have to make the decision. All right, do we keep this guy in, or do we, go to the bench and get a pinch hitter in and hope for a new guy next inning? I can't think of a better situational position to put a team in than that. That's something where a team really has to think about their next move.
Well, that argument would be for a universal pitcher, which again, if they went to an all pitcher, I would have been down with that too.
No, I wouldn't want a universal pitcher at all. I'd want it to be 100%. I like the idea of having having a pitcher come up to the plate or the team saying, all right, we're gonna have to pinch hit this guy and get a new pitcher next inning.
Well, no, that's what I meant. But I'm saying if we made both leagues use put their pitcher in the lineup instead of letting the AL have a DH to even begin with, because then that's all you're gonna have is the predicament you're talking about. Sixth inning, teams coming up to bat, pitchers coming up in the order. Do they swap? Do they not? That's the thing is I don't care which way it went. My thing was it puts everyone on the same playing field. Because now there's an advantage and disadvantage playing against each other.
Yeah, but when you play in your league though, and you play league games, or even when you're playing interleague games, you play by the rules of that league. It's not like the Dodgers are forced to back Clayton Kershaw at Fenway Park. They can if they really want to. I remember in one instance, the Giants went to Oakland and had Madison Bumgarner back because he's traditionally a pretty solid hitter. So they had him step up to the plate and said, you know what, we're not going to have the DH this game. But when you do play in that league of your choice, you do play by the rules that are, established in that league stadium. So I in my opinion, the rules were fair whenever a team went in there.
No, I mean, I get it. And I mean, obviously it's been a hot topic, so we're not the only ones who sat here debating, is it good or is it not? But I think for me, it's there's not enough good moments when a pitcher's hitting, and when the NL's playing each other, even if we just leave the AL out for a second, there's not enough good moments to outride the fact that most of the time they just bunt or just move the runners over. When it's I want it to be exciting. I want to watch someone hit the ball out of the park. But it's not only that fact, but then when they do go up against each other, it feels like there's almost a slight advantage in favor of the NL. Like I was saying before, the pitcher has batting experience. So when the AL comes to the NL, that hitter's, you have a hitter with experience and a batting average, and you have a hitter who's looking at 3 zeros right now. And then in the same token, but if you go the other way around, it's easier to find a hitter on your bench than to find a pitcher who can hit. That's how I look at it. That's where I see it's unfair.
Yeah, but I don't know. Who would you rather have hit? Would you rather a pitcher hit, or would you rather have Jackie Bradley Jr. at the plate?
Jackie Bradley Jr.
I don't know, man. He's the worst hitter in the league, and I chose that for a reason.
I figured there was a reason, but at the same argument, would you rather have a pitcher at bat, or would you rather have somebody who can actually hit the ball?
I mean, that's part of the strategy of making your lineup.
Because there's pitchers who can hit too. Look at what's his name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Who he was one of the best hitters on his team. And he was also a stud pitcher.
DeGrom.
Yeah, there was another one too.
Yeah, you're probably thinking of Jacob DeGrom though. He batted 400 in June, going into June. He was absolutely unstoppable. He was looking like he was going to be the runaway MVP because he had an ERA that was 0.68. I actually got to see one of his starts at one point. It was unbelievable.
No, I think there was a guy. Ohtani. That's what I was thinking.
Ohtani. Yes. Ohtani. Yes.
Who they could have used the DH, but he ended up hitting because he was actually really good.
No. What they do with Ohtani is that on the days he pitches, he doesn't hit.
That's what I was saying. They let him hit in the DH spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how they use him on his days off.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying you get guys like that who can hit. Of course, there's those rare outliers. Then you get guys who come off the bench who can't hit to save their lives. I'm saying from a majority standpoint, most pitchers come to the plate. No offense to pitchers, they don't do much. But most guys on the bench can hit a ball better than a pitcher. So better off just evening the playing field. Everyone just gets an extra hitter. Let the pitcher focus on throwing a good game. Let the extra hitter get some swings in who can actually hit the ball and makes the game exciting. And let them play ball.
Yeah. I mean, listen, most of this argument comes from me being a baseball junkie and, kind of liking the game how it was when I, first started watching it. I like the rules that there were when I basically first started getting into baseball. I think that you should still be able to run over the catcher, at a collision at home plate. I like seeing some old school things of baseball from the way I was watching it. So that's kind of where a lot of my expertise comes with baseball and where I like to watch it from. So that has to do with a lot with my reasoning as well. But Sean, obviously we've talked about a whole lot during this episode and we are now down to the wire, which means that we're going to wrap up everything we talked about in this episode and send you guys off into your weekend. Obviously, we welcomed Sean Howe onto the show, long time, guest at this point. I've had him on a good couple times now. Sean, thank you so much for coming on, man. It has been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. It's fun as always.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So obviously, Sean, we talked about a lot today. We started things off talking about Tom Brady calling off his retirement and returning to the Bucs for his 23rd NFL season. He said again, "I'm coming back to Tampa. Unfinished business. Let's effing go." After that, we talked about Baker Mayfield requesting a trade from the Cleveland Browns and everything that has transpired in Cleveland. As one Browns fan famously once said, "It is a factory of sadness, that place." So obviously they are kind of going down the tubes right now. We talked about any potential opportunities for him. After that, we talked about the New England Patriots and the lackluster start that they've had to their offseason. However, it's a very typical Patriots offseason if you didn't pay attention to the one last year. So who knows what could be coming on the horizon? Maybe they make a big move and make a big splash, but that's really going to depend. We spent a good time too talking about Von Miller and his new contract with the Buffalo Bills. And this possibly has the ability to be one of the worst contracts in professional sports. So who knows what the deal is there. After that, we talked about everything going on in the MLB, and we talked about everything going on in the MLB as well as the universal DH, the Red Sox not making any moves in free agency and whatnot. It's been crazy. I'm getting a report though real quick. I want to possibly touch on this. Adam Wright, obviously a good friend of ours, is talking to us about Davante Adams. I'm gonna call him on the show real quick if that's all good with you.
For it. I'm excited to hear what Adam's going to say.
All right. So kind of a surprise announcement here. We're bringing Adam Wright onto the show. Going to be a very interesting move. I don't know what is going on with Davante Adams. So let me bring him on the show. We were just about to go down to the wire here, but I want to bring Adam on for this. What is the deal with Davante Adams? Hey, Adam.
Dude.
Hey, so I'm actually doing a show right now. So what's going on with Davante Adams? I'm gonna put you on. The microphone to talk about what's going on. What's up?
Davonte Adams just got traded to the Las Vegas Raiders.
Whoa! Are you joking? For who?
I'm not joking. There's still official details to come out, but he's about to get a new contract worth $141 million over 5 years.
Really? Oh my God. So obviously we got some breaking news here on Down to the Wire right now. Davante Adams going to the Las Vegas Raiders. Adam, I'm glad I was able to pick up the phone with you right here real quick. Obviously, when did this just break? Is this just like breaking now?
Literally just seconds ago.
Jesus.
I'm in here editing my segment for this production for my school, and I looked down at my phone. I just called CJ and I told him to put out a post for it.
Wow.
On our show, but on our podcast page. But Jesus Christ,
that is definitely something right there. That is some big news going on, obviously there. Sean, we were just about to go down to the wire, but what are your thoughts on this?
I just looked it up quick because I was curious to see this. So apparently they're getting two prime.
Adam, we got Sean Howe on the show. You're unfortunately not gonna be able to hear him, but we got him on.
Oh wow, look at that. He used to be on my show every now and then.
Hey, he never texts me anymore. That's my argument.
Oh my God, I can't believe it.
That is some That is some crazy news. So obviously, okay. So 1 minute ago from Adam Schefter, the Raiders are getting Davante Adams. The Packers are getting two 2022 picks, including the Raiders' first round picks per sources. That is what is currently coming up in the Davante Adams deal. So
that was the thing I was just reading before I was cut off by Mr. Adam Wright.
Yeah. So obviously, again, Sean, Adam can't hear you right now. So Adam, if you're still there, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'll give my thoughts on this in just a second, but what are your initial thoughts?
Well, on my show a couple of days ago, I mentioned that I thought the Raiders need to sign Allen Robinson because I thought they needed to sort of keep up with what's going on in the rest of the AFC West. And they just went out and got freaking Davante Adams.
Yeah, I mean, which
trumps everything else. And yesterday they just got Chandler Jones and a nice defensive back, Rocky Sin. So everybody in that division is making moves.
Yeah. I mean, Adam, we were talking about the possibility if things didn't work out in Tampa, whether Tom Brady would consider the Vegas Raiders as a possible landing spot. Is that something that you could, next year, rather, is that something with a move like this? Do you think that could be a possible opportunity for Brady to reunite with a guy like Josh McDaniels and, get a chance to go into an offense like that? Is that something that you think could entice Brady if this year in Tampa Bay doesn't work out?
It's possible. I've always been thinking of him going to the 49ers because that's been heavily rumored. He's always wanted to be a 49er. And I'm low-key thinking that might be part of the reason why he came out of the retirement, because he wants to weasel his way out of Tampa and try to get to a new team and somehow, some way find his way over to San Francisco. Now, if Trey Lance turns out to be like the next Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert type player, he doesn't sniff San Francisco for the rest of his life because there's no way he outlasts him, obviously.
Yeah.
But if I would see the Raiders as a possibility, sure.
Yeah. It's obviously something that could be out there. With this happening now, I mean, obviously I am just shocked by this move. I cannot believe that this is now happening, but what is this? I mean, Aaron Rodgers has got to be pissed beyond belief at this point. I mean, what is he going to do at this point?
I'm waiting for him to make a statement. That's what I'm waiting for. It's for Aaron Rodgers to come out and say what's going on.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think Rodgers is going to do as a result of this?
I think he's going to force them to use this first round pick, at least one of their picks, on a wide receiver.
Yeah,
I mean, they have to.
I think John Mechie to Green Bay has to be a thing now at this point. I don't know what they have to make a move now for a receiver. You have to go out and get a guy. The Packers are probably just like, you got to be kidding me right now. Like this is a complete nightmare for the Green Bay Packers. It is this thing has fallen apart very, very quickly after Davante Adams obviously said that he wasn't going to play under the franchise tag. This thing has gotten sour really quick. So, obviously, Adam, thank you for coming on, sharing this brief news, but we are actually in the process of wrapping up this show. So I'm probably going to, sign off with you here. And then, maybe we can talk about this a little later.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for coming on the show real quick, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man.
All righty. Take care.
See ya.
Bye. All right. So that obviously is some crazy news, Sean. Really glad I didn't end the show without seeing what was going on. Cause usually when Adam calls me like that, I'm like, all right, it's usually not to do like, hey man, how's the weather? It's usually there's something sports related. So I'm glad I picked up the phone right there. So obviously some crazy news going on with Davante Adams, just breaking. And I'm glad that we're going to get some coverage out on this. Pretty crazy news, man.
Oh, completely unexpected too. No, I wouldn't have seen this coming.
No, I mean,
again,
for the Raiders,
Rodgers thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
Rodgers has got to be pissed. He's got to be pissed. I mean, he just re-upped with the Packers, and people were saying it was for 4 years, $200 million. That was apparently a fake deal. Pat McAfee basically said that Rodgers is back for this year, but after that, nothing is certain. So, there's also maybe a chance if Tom Brady doesn't get a chance to go to the Vegas Raiders, maybe Aaron Rodgers sees his buddy out there and says, all right, I'm willing to go out there for maybe a little bit and try to compete in that division. But I mean, the AFC West has been insane this offseason. Russell Wilson, you got freaking now, obviously, Chandler Jones and company. Now you have, again, Davante Adams going out to the Vegas Raiders. That division is going to be an absolute war this year. You know, we were talking about it was going to be crazy if Tom Brady was to join it. Regardless of it, that is going to be the division to watch in football this year. It is going to be an absolute battle this year. I am so for it.
No, this is most certainly spice things up because again, we were talking years down the line with Tom Brady, but now bringing him in, this is about to be a whole new conference. The division. So I'm just really interested to see where this goes.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, it's spicy.
Yeah, it's very, very spicy. I'm really interested to see what happens. Obviously, we were just about to go. We were already going down to the wire during that. So I guess the final thing we can talk about in wrapping up this segment is saying Davonte Adams is now a Las Vegas Raider. He's also going to be signing there on a 5-year contract. Some crazy news happening in the final moments of Down to the Wire. Really glad I was able to get it on with you guys and get Adam on for a quick little bit there. I know you two, you two go back and forth with each other. So I'm glad I was able to get him on for that. Before we do sign off, though, if you do not follow Down to the Wire yet on social media or streaming platforms, what are you guys doing? We're available everywhere you can stream podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and everywhere else. You can also find the video stream to this podcast on YouTube. And you can also find any info or updates regarding the show on our Instagram. That is at down.to-the-wire on Instagram. Again, at down.to-the-wire on Instagram. Sean, any final thoughts before we sign off?
This has gotten spicy. This went from ear to ear really, really fast.
Yep. It has gotten very spicy. And, I'm excited for what's going to happen these next couple of days. It's things that just got interesting. Sean, thanks again for coming on the show. And from Down the Wire, I'm Brian Kostiw.
And I'm Sean Howe.
Take care, you guys. Have a great weekend and peace out.